Okay, I'm joined by Nadia Antonangeli and Nicole Lilios, my old friends. Nicole is a registered kinesiologist working with us at TriHealth, and she's a studying physiotherapist back at school. How do you like it?
I'm loving it so far.
Yeah, good answer. And Nadia is fourth year naturopathic student, almost done. And
looking forward to graduating and getting started.
oh my gosh, this is such an interview answer. It's like, I want to make a difference in the world. Do you like the school?
I do like the school. I do.
Good. What do you like about it?
I like the opportunity definitely to be sort of hands-on and get that experience with patients.
Are you in school?
Yeah,
It's not virtual.
We're going in now more so for like specific cases that require in-person visits. But yeah, getting in on the hands-on, it's been a little bit up and down with COVID. So the more opportunity we kind of get to be in the clinic, I feel like the more we learn. So
Yeah, I can imagine doing it virtually. So as much as you can get in is good.
sure.
So I invited you guys because I want to talk about health as a lifestyle, because we sort of sent a few emails back and forth, and I know you guys, and I'm like, okay, when I talk about you guys or I talk to you guys, I know that like you guys, you live the lifestyle. At least I perceive so. So I thought that it would be like motivating and encouraging for people that want to get healthier, or they want to start a regime, or they don't even know where to get started. So I'm like, let me talk to two people that, they know each other. You guys are friends from way back, and you are both in healthcare. So let's start talking about like the idea of health as a lifestyle. Whoever wants to jump in. What does it mean to you? How did it come about for you? Like, how did you, start, looking at a career in healthcare? Give some backstory.
Yeah, I can start. I think just in general, when you think of the word health, it might mean different things for different people. But from my perspective, I can talk on that a little bit. What got me into healthcare, starting from a young age, I was involved in sport, and that kind of lead to me pursuing my studies in kinesiology. And just from those studies, I really learned to understand the value of what it means to maintain and live a healthy lifestyle. And for me specifically, that meant maintaining my fitness, maintaining my nutrition in a healthful way, knowing that I'm appropriately fueling my body for the activities that I wanted to do on a daily basis. And from there, I just fell in love with how the body works in general, mechanically as well as holistically. Mm-hmm. So I just wanted to keep learning and keep pursuing my studies, and that's what drove me to continuing into physiotherapy school as well. So I think a lot of times when people think of, oh, I want to be healthy, or oh, I want to start a healthy journey, they're like, okay, let me try out this month program, and then that'll kickstart my journey, and I'll be able to continue it. But a lot of times those programs end up being finite for people. So I think it's about knowing how to integrate certain realistic practices into your lifestyle that you can sustain over the long term. And I know we hear this word sustainability thrown out around a lot on social media and on different platforms, but maybe we can dive in a little bit more about what sustainability actually looks like for somebody and how to actually incorporate that into your lifestyle, making that a little bit more actionable for the public. So my big thing is, yeah, I know you want to be healthy. I know you want to live healthy, but how can we make that work for you in your specific situation? Because at the end of the day, everybody's unique, and we need to appreciate that and work with that.
Good. That's a really good answer. So, I mean, from there, I'm hearing like people fall off. That's sort of like the first obstacle. It's like, if people want to get started, like a lot of people like, I'd love to train every day. I'd love to be active and more fit and all the good stuff that comes with it. But even if they get started, sometimes it's just like, and then I just stopped. Something happened. I got COVID or something that prevented me from maintaining my routine. And then they never pick it back up, or it's not the same. So would you say it's an issue of like motivation? Is it sort of, because like you were in sports, I mean, a lot of people did sports, but they don't necessarily go into a career in healthcare or, the mechanics of the body, which is like something that maybe is like something that piqued your interest, something that you had a passion for, and then also wanting to maintain your health in a certain way. Like, what motivated you? Like, do you feel like it's just part of your character? Is there something like was there a role model? Was there an event? Like, what maintains your motivation? Because I mean, if that's the question for other people, like, how do you maintain motivation? What's something that motivates you?
I think that's a good question. Personally, like for my motivation, I've gotten to the point where it's just become intrinsically a thing for me. I know this is what makes me feel my best, and this is what helps me perform my best in life. And I know that if I want to help others, if I'm not helping myself first and maintaining, you know, that level of health that I personally feel like I need to maintain, whether that be, you know, my training 4 days a week, my daily walks, just eating healthily, then I know I won't be able to show up in life the way I want to and give it my 100%, give it my all. So I think that's become the driving factor for me personally at this stage in my life. When I was younger, there may have been other driving factors, maybe a little bit more intrinsic, but now I'm at the point where it's like, okay, if I want to give 100% in all aspects of my life, whether it's in relationships, whether it's through my career, whether it's helping people one-on-one in healthcare, I need to know, I need to take care of myself and be my best always. So that's kind of the driving factor at this point.
Yeah. So you got to live it.
You got to live it.
Yeah. Good.
Yeah.
Good. All right, Nadia. Why are you being a naturopath for?
Yeah, so it's actually a funny story. I feel like growing up, I always knew that I wanted to do something in healthcare, some way, somehow. I wasn't exactly sure what that meant for me. So after kind of going into university at U of T, I was starting to kind of get my foot in and see where I could find myself in the future. And it was actually when I met you and Maria that I was first introduced to naturopathic medicine. Yeah.
Wow.
Like growing up, I had never gone to a naturopathic doctor myself, but getting this experience and kind of seeing the scope and the way that we're able to help others, I think that was something that was really enticing to me. And I wanted to be able to do that for other people, just help them kind of work towards their health goals and optimize their health and wellness, sort of work on prevention, and yeah, just be that person that they can come and feel that they're listened to and that they've been able to express exactly how they're feeling, and sort of work with them for what works best for them as well.
Yeah. I mean, that's cool. I didn't know I was the primary person. I think I'm exaggerating a little bit, but you're outlining that there's a need to be heard. So in healthcare, I mean, in standard healthcare, that's not really, like, that's not the job. That's at least not now. Like, it's sort of like, okay, you're not going to die today.
For sure.
And so that's the motivator. I mean, that's a system. To me, it's a broken system, but I mean, it works for some things, like if you need emergency care. But when you want to expand it to like quality of life and like thriving, then yeah, you need to like, there's more pieces to the puzzle. I mean, when I'm like old enough to remember like going to my family doctor, you spend like a half an hour. You would wait 4 hours, but you'd have a chance to. Now it's sort of like you get one complaint. You got 3 minutes, go. So the fact that you value that and recognize that in healthcare, that it's like, okay, we need to expand what we're like sort of fed as like, this is sufficient. This is all you're allotted. Because again, health is perpetual. It's not like, okay, I'm healthy now. It's not like a switch that's like you go from healthy to sick or well to unwell. Like it's sort of like a spectrum that you have to maintain. And, you know, some areas are weaker than others and need to be fortified. And I think that's where like living a life of like activity and nutrition is important, because those are factors that they're not taught in school. Like, I mean, we learn health, but health, you know, is sort of, it's not what we're taught is not an exemplary example or of like a quality of life. It's sort of like to be devoid of acute disease, which is sad. Because I mean, if we want people to thrive, we can't give them the bare minimum. Okay. Yeah. So outside of being a naturopath, what do you do?
Yeah, so besides that, so currently still in school. And then other than that, I teach dance twice a week.
Of course you do.
So
Sure,
because it was
in
such
your
a,
last year of a professional school, just do a little dancing on the side.
I know. Yeah, just something that I guess I grew up with and still wanted to keep a little bit of it with me as long as I could, just because that was kind of the thing that introduced me to the idea of health and wellness, just maintaining physical activity in any form that it came.
Who do you teach?
Pardon?
Who do you teach?
Oh, I teach little kids. So I teach all the way from age 4 up until age 15.
And what kind of dance?
All different styles. So we do ballet, jazz, acro, contemporary.
Wow. You ever do competitions?
We do. We actually, well, lately we haven't, but definitely gearing up for this year, hopefully.
She's a really good dancer.
I have a feeling.
Like best of the best.
Like in terms of like at a party or like
I don't do that kind of dancing.
I don't know. I'm sure you don't bust out ballet moves at a club.
We have to force her to do that if we want to see it.
All right, that's good. Okay, so you guys came from a background of like activity. And I think that's interesting because what if someone doesn't come from that kind of background? How would you motivate them to be like, you could learn, you could start? Because I mean, you said you teach kids, which is cool, up to 15. What if you're 40?
Yeah, so I think I obviously think it's never too late to start. There's always like that starting point, and just getting your feet wet with it is kind of the first big step. So I'd say like even if you're 40, to be physically active, it doesn't mean you have to go to the gym and work out like 5 days a week. It could be as easy as going for a walk with your girlfriends outside, or playing tennis with your friends on the weekend. Just anything that kind of starts to initiate that movement. And then as they build up, they can obviously dedicate more time to it. If they find it's something that's like suitable for their lifestyle, then they could get more into kind of those not so advanced, but they can get into the more intense like physical activity, because any type of movement we can classify as physical activity. So even just starting playing some music and dancing around, that could be a start.
Yeah.
Following a Zumba online class.
I like, there's something in there that I really liked, is that it's almost like creating a routine, like where it's like something you look forward to. It's not just like, oh, maybe I'll do it today. It's like making time for it. It's like, okay, every Saturday we do this for an hour. And by doing that, you actually create like you look forward to it. It's a motivator, because, you know, I find that when, like, let's say it's a busy week at work, but I have something that I look forward to. It's like, okay, but on Friday we're doing this. We have a movie night or whatever it is. So those days that are kind of mundane, I have that thing I look forward to, and I'm excited. It makes me want to get there. I think if we can institute something like that for physical activity, especially with friends or your family, now that's like creating, it's a thing now. Just like how you have dinner, that's a thing. Now we're active together, that's a thing. Nicole, I want to ask you about your brand.
Sure.
How would you describe it?
So it's a very broad question, so I'll try and stay in one lane, I guess, with this one. So overall, like,
it wasn't meant to be a broad question. I mean, how would you, like, I really want you to describe, like, what's your philosophy in activity?
Okay, I got that.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think my philosophy has evolved over the years. So where I started with the whole fitness industry and becoming a trainer and all that, what I initially went into it for is not where I'm at today. So it's definitely evolved over the years, like I've said, but I think now I've gotten to the point where my main philosophy is doing what you enjoy doing and incorporating that into your lifestyle as best as you can. And one thing that I live by is that health is subjective. So I touched on this earlier in the sense that health is what you want it to look like for you, or whether that be my version of being healthy is I need to have my 4 days a week of training. I want to get my 10,000 steps a day. And the goal of that is to be able to perform my best in my everyday life. But my version of health or my version of physical activity might look different than yours or Nadia, let's say, or a professional athlete. So that's a different end of the spectrum, but the key thing is the subjectivity of what health, fitness, and strength looks like to one person won't look like the same thing to somebody else. So I think just really individualizing what that health is for that specific individual is kind of where I'm at right now. And I think that's the most effective way to look at it, in my opinion, when we're thinking of longevity and staying in this game for the long run.
So I mean, I'd like to delve in a little bit in terms of maybe what you think. I mean, I know you discuss subjectivity, which is, I can appreciate that everyone sort of has to find what works for them. But when you're sort of in a position to be like a coach, you're training, people are looking to you to set an example. So you have certain parameters that perhaps you hold yourself to, but it's not unfair to offer that to your clientele. So if, someone's coming to you, they're like, Nicole, what do you think I need to do? I mean, you could definitely customize it to what they're able to do, but there may be some things that you're like, you know what, we really need to, like you mentioned, like train 4 days a week. How many certain steps, probably a diet. What are some things that you're like, ideally you would be doing this if you want to get results?
Well, I think the main thing, it always comes down to goals. So depending on what that individual's goals are, like you said, we would individualize it to that. But if you're just saying on a general broad spectrum, I always refer back to Canada's health and physical activity guidelines. So that would be just in general, if we want to be healthy, we want to get the health benefits of physical activity and exercise, then I would say everybody across the board should be engaging in strength training twice a week and should be getting 150 minutes a week of aerobic exercise. And this has been scientifically proven for obtaining those health benefits and just maintaining overall general good health. But like I said, if somebody has a specific goal of, I want to be able to do 5 pull-ups in the next month, or I want to run a 5K, that's obviously we're going to have to take a different approach to what parameters we set in their training and fitness plan in order for them to get there. But I think in general, following those Canada's physical activity guidelines is somewhere to start for everybody.
Okay. So it's more like an outside in approach. It's like you kind of can bring everyone into this umbrella. That's like the Canada guidelines. And then it's like, but now it's like, if they are finding that they're getting to a point where they can do more, then they can get into like the more of the nitty gritty. Like, okay, I want to do a little bit more strength training. I want to start doing some squats. I want to use the squat rack. I want to be able to do lunges without pain. I want to be able to be more mobile. I want to be able to like increase my flexibility. So I think it makes sense that you it's encouraging for people that haven't started or they want to get back into it, because it's like, you'll take them wherever they're at and you can kind of set a goal. It's like, okay, 3 months from now, we're going to be over there. But, we have to start with like, the baby steps in a sense. But people get discouraged when they're like, oh, I don't want to start at the beginning. But especially if you've had a background in training and something, when we do the in-body analysis, I can almost always tell someone's like, hey, you used to work out. They're like, oh, yeah, but not like for 10, 15 years. But it's like, but it's still here. The muscle mass is still there. There's like, it's not, then they'll like grab their tummy and they'll be like, but I'm so overweight. And it's like, that doesn't matter. It's still in there. It's like learning it's like riding a bike. You never really forget. You might be rusty. But once you get back into it, you'd be surprised how quickly, you start seeing the muscles and you start seeing a little bit more development, the definition, and the strength starts coming back. So those are motivators. So whether you're just starting out or it's been a long time, there's an opportunity for you to kind of get back on the bike, and then you start to see that that's in itself a motivator. Yeah.
I think a big thing with that too, I've had clients who've come to me, they were active in the past and now they've fallen off, quote unquote, fallen off in their eyes. And the one thing that I always tell them is to, you may have been at one place at that point in your life, but now we're here and let's focus on the here and now. I think we get hung up on, oh, I was this when I was younger, or I did this, and I could do so many other things, but it's like, okay, that's amazing. You have all that experience and wisdom and knowledge under your belts of what you were capable of, but here's where we're at today. So let's come up with an action plan, use that as motivation now, and let's propel forward, because the past is the past. It's done. Let's move on. All we have is the here and now, and let's focus on getting you to where you want to be today, not yesterday.
Yeah. I find like people get really discouraged, and I don't know if that just fuels their lack of motivation. It's like, it's too hard. It's like, or I used to be able to do this and I won't be able to. Like, I was able to bench press 300 pounds. It's like, you shouldn't anymore. It's like, but I used to be able to. It's like, but like, unless someone that's 300 pounds is on you and you want them off, it's not necessary. But it's like, you could actually have better results or change the perception of what your strength is. Because I mean, when you're a young guy, you want to bench press everything and you want to do curls. You don't want to do anything else. And that's, at the time, you look like an upside down triangle and you're content. But when you're 40, you're like, maybe I don't want that as much. Yeah. So I think making realistic goals, not based on what they used to be able to do or the fact that they were never able to do it, but on like, you could do this in like 2 weeks. Like if you want to do pull-ups, like that's a good example. It's like in like 3 weeks, you can be doing like 10 pull-ups easily. No, I can't even do one. You'll do it. You're going to do it. So I think having those little goals along the way are important. I think what I was touching on before in terms of branding, I think, and it's something that kind of hit me over the head. I had to kind of absorb it. Is like, you kind of have to have your own calling card. Like, what are you known for? And sometimes you have to reinvent that because the terrain changes. And we were talking a little bit before about like social media and like, doing a video and like hoping it goes viral because that's like, some kind of measure of success. What is interesting to me is the parameters or the characteristics that make something attractive to people. It's like, what is it about this video? Like, I mean, I've done a lot of videos that are like informative and good information. I thought, well, we're well done. And I had like 30 views. And then something just a throwaway, like I just wasn't paying. It's like 2,000. Yeah. So I did one yesterday and it was like 3 health parameters that no one talks about, but you should know. You should be able to rhyme off. It was like your vitamin D levels, your percentage body fat, and the Konigsberg or your adrenal function measurement that we do. It was really well received. And I think because there's some kind of uniqueness there. I think people are always looking for something new. So I'm going to throw it to Nadia. And like, Nadia, what do you think is like in terms of health, in terms of like natural medicine, what do you think people are looking for now? Like, whether it's something you've experienced in clinic, something personally, what is like sort of like the new genre of natural medicine? Yeah,
I think people right now are kind of looking just in general to optimize their own health. I feel like we kind of touched on this a little bit before, but we were saying like in the past, we never really went to the doctors unless there was something wrong. And we were just treating what was wrong. And then once it was better or like quote unquote better, we kind of forgot about it. And then maybe it came back a few years later and we had to go deal with it again. So I think now people are at that point where they're willing to put in the work to kind of get ahead of their health and stay on top of it, stay on track, and just kind of integrate an overall healthy lifestyle. Like people are looking for easy ways to, increase their protein intake throughout the day. We know our protein intake could be so important. People are looking for easy ways of how to practice mindfulness and just give themselves the time for self-care. Like I feel like we live in a world where we all kind of stretch ourselves a little thin. We kind of overcommit to things and we're trying to be people pleasers, myself included. So we try to agree to everything, and in the end, it's kind of only harming ourselves because we're pulling ourselves in so many different directions and we don't have the time to kind of focus on ourselves and do what we need to do to feel good overall. Yeah. I think
that's a good answer. I mean, I think like you're highlighting like self-awareness and self-care. Because it is something that like, I think a lot of people during COVID, they started to realize it's like, my job's killing me. I've had a lot of people like tell me that, or they're in a position where it's like, I can't do what I used to do, whether it's because they're working from home or the stresses of everything is just adding up. And then all the outlets that we had, those are gone for the most part, or you have to be really creative or come up with new ways to de-stress. So I think it is important that people turn their attention to like what is draining their battery. So I mean, for the most part, everyone has to work. So you can't like not everyone can quit their job. But I mean, maybe you can moderate, or you can like have things after work that, or maybe even just the idea of like not doing work after work hours. I mean, especially if someone's, has a home office, they just work until they go to sleep. So there has to be that concept of like, work is work, and I'll kill it when I'm doing it. But then afterwards, I have to understand the concept of like downtime and recharging. Because I mean, one of the things I do with my patients is work on changing their one track mind or one track motivation of fight or flight, because that's what makes them succeed, versus like, okay, now I can do my rest and digest phase, my parasympathetic system. I can actually allow myself to feel lazy. And I think lazy is sort of like a bad word, because it's like someone calls you lazy. You're like, no, I'm motivated. It's like it's almost like a challenge to your character. But it's like, but you should have you need downtime. Like, as long as you are putting in the effort in the other areas, whether it's, physical activity and your work day and whatever responsibilities you have, like, and I tell people, like, you have to have these sacred times in the day, in the week, in the month, things that you always have that you have to look forward to, and you can't break them, because you start breaking them once or twice, then it's like it's not a habit anymore. They just sort of disappear. So it's important to be motivated and to maintain these things, whether it's like, okay, I'm gonna train 3 times a week in my basement with my friend, and we're always gonna do it, no matter rain or shine or snow or whatever it is. So I think that what you were saying brought that to mind for me, and I do see a big push in terms of like social media, in terms of like obviously being much more aware of your mental health, but I don't know if there's enough good information in terms of like how to maintain that. I mean, there's a lot of like medical setting, like counseling, therapy, that sort of thing. But in terms of like natural medicine helping mental health, I mean, I think we could all agree like physical activity is a huge supporter of your mental health. It has to be. And I think diet as well is maybe less understood. Like everyone has a poor diet that I speak to, especially when they first come in, like skipping meals, having like certain foods that don't belong there, or not having the foods that do, and just having a lack of awareness of like, oh, should I have that? I don't know. How much protein should I have? I don't know. Or they adopt certain dietary restrictions in the name of health, but they may or may not have consequences if they're not done properly. So the perception of I'm doing something healthy, I'm doing the right thing, right? And then it's like, well, but you see these parameters are all dropping because you're lacking something in your diet. But those things cause inflammation. It's like maybe for some people, maybe in an excessive state. So I think there's some lack of knowledge or miscommunication with what is health and how to measure it. And a lot of people, I think, adopt like an all or nothing attitude. It's like, it's easier for me just to never have these things, or it's easier for me just to do this all the time, because it takes the guesswork out of it. And I think maybe what we're trying to strive for is to get people to understand their bodies and their diets and their physical activity, like what they need, to customize as much as possible so that any deficiencies they have, they're meeting, and what they're adopting is actually all benefit, as opposed to a consequence that will probably lead to lack of motivation and a drop off.
Exactly.
Thanks. Success stories. Yeah, you guys want to share any success stories? It could be with clients, it could be personal, it could be I told so-and-so something about their health 10 years ago. They didn't listen to me, and then they bought like a magazine and they saw it in there. Now they're doing it. That's a success story. I have a few of those.
Yeah, I think I can share.
Good.
I can share a personal and a client story.
Bonus points.
So I'll start with the client because they're more important. So I think for me, just in the name of anonymity, I'm not even sure if I said that right, but
those are the things in the ocean.
Anyways, so yeah, I have one specific client who I've been with for a while. And I think the main thing for me that really like lights the light up for me inside is seeing the improvement in confidence and self-worth when they walk out the door. Mm-hmm. So when we first started, you know, they're just super down on themselves. Everything's a problem, lack of confidence just in all areas of their life.
Everything sucks.
Everything sucks. Just like an overall just negative affect towards everything. And it's like, okay, how am I going to lift this person up? And just over, you know, proper goal setting and just working together and just, you know, little pep talks along the way and just overall improving fitness throughout the couple of years that we've been together. I've just seen the biggest improvement in that self-confidence, that self-efficacy, just that drive to be a better person overall. And just knowing that I had the impact and influence on that, just like I said, lights the fire within me to want to do that and spread that to the masses, because I think everybody deserves to feel that way. And fitness can act as the stepping stone, a huge part or big stepping stone of getting there. So yeah, definitely one of the greater success stories for clients. And this has happened on a number of occasions, but more specifically with this client than others, just from their starting point.
Let me ask you something about that.
Sure.
Does the client recognize that?
I think they do, just from just general conversation and check-in. It's like, oh, if I don't see you for a while, like I feel this way. Like I don't feel as good about myself. I don't feel like I'm capable of doing things outside of here. So just overall that spillover into all areas of their life, aside from coming into the clinic here to see me, they definitely acknowledge that the impact that our time together has on them. So for sure.
The reason I asked that is I'm a little self-serving, but I feel like sometimes people that you help, I mean, this might be my perception, but sometimes I don't know if it's, maybe they're uncomfortable or they are disconnected from what's helping. And I think that, I don't think it matters in the end. I mean, I think as a practitioner, that's something you have to like get over quickly. Because sometimes you're like, I mean, I know that there's people that I bent over backwards and they're like, you've never helped me. And I'm like, you have no idea. Do you not remember?
Yeah.
And then at times you're like, I'm inclined to be like I would remind them. But it's like, but that would just serve me. Like, I don't need to do, like, if they feel good, I don't need the credit.
Yeah.
And I think, and a lot of, and that's something, that was a hard one. That would be good for you to, that's a good tip. You're there's a lot of, it's a thankless job at times.
Yeah.
But then every so often there is that person that you help and they're like, you helped me.
Just emphasizing that at the end of the day, it's not about us. It's about you. This is all about you. We're here to help guide you and provide you with the proper resources. But at the end of the day, we're striving for that independence and autonomy to take action in your own life. And you got to run with that. We're here to support you. But at the end of the day, it's all on you.
Yeah. Yeah. You had another part to your story.
Yes. So I think another personal success story. So you mentioned that I'm back in physiotherapy school. And so getting into the program was the biggest headache and biggest challenge I probably had to overcome. So I did a lot of other things during my undergraduate study that didn't allow me to have the appropriate grades to get into physio school right away. So I think, long story short, got in on my third try. And I think it was just such a pressing time for me to not give up, because a lot of times I was like, hey, maybe this isn't for me. But I knew deep down throughout that whole journey that it was for me. It's just a matter of, no, you're not allowed to give up. You got to just keep going. So I think just over those 3 years of constantly reinventing myself, constantly bettering myself, becoming, just better in all areas academically as well as professionally, allowed me to finally get to that point I was trying to get at for 3 years. So it just really proved that resiliency and being able to overcome like adversity of, feeling like you're not good enough to get somewhere, but just not giving up and finally getting to that end point is just like such a great feeling.
Yeah. Rejection's not permanent.
No.
Yeah. I want to put that on a t-shirt. I'm such a jerk. I take such a good moment and I make a stupid joke. I've done that all my life. Nadia, you got anything?
I would say in terms of success, kind of along the same lines like Nicole. But basically, like when patients come into us, they're kind of like, okay, what diet do I follow? What supplement can you give me to help me do this? And it's like, okay, let's take a step back and let's kind of work together to see where you're at. We want to give you something that's sort of not just short term, it'll work for a bit and then everything kind of goes out the window. We want to give you like a lifestyle change, something that you can continue, and it could be a lifelong adjustment and get you to those goals still, but keeping you there throughout your whole life, not just for the next month or the next 2 months. So I usually find that like when patients come in, it's always good to teach them about, let's just talk about nutrition, for example. So teach them about the parameters of healthy eating, kind of what consists of a healthy diet. You don't have to restrict your calories severely or follow any of these fad diets we see online necessarily. You more so just have to think about having like all those whole foods, taking time to sit down and eat. Like a lot of the time, I know we live in a world where we're always go, go, go. We're running from one place to the next. We're trying to eat anything that we can that's quick on the run. And we're not sort of taking the time to like sit down, eat intuitively. And then that kind of plays in on how much food we're eating throughout the day or the quality of the food we're eating throughout the day. So yeah, really just giving people that knowledge, I think, is a huge success, because then once they walk out of there, they feel like, okay, I know what to do going forward. I don't need to follow something verbatim, but I have the kind of basics that I know I need to go off of. And yeah, and then they see lots of improvement as well in their whole life with their family.
Mm-hmm. Well, I was going to ask you, like, have you guys seen in your own families, like people be like, hey, you know, I see you doing this. Like I started doing something like that.
For sure. Even like asking questions. Like I find my family's always asking me questions. They're like, oh, what are you taking that for? Or, oh, what do you think I should do for this? Mm-hmm. And they're just becoming more aware now too of their overall health. And they're trying to see, let me learn a bit more about what I can do to better my own health.
Yeah. I've had people, like patients, then they're like, oh, I'm so upset. Like my parents, they don't eat properly. I'm really worried about them. Mm-hmm. But it's at a point where like, they're like angry. Like they start arguing with them. It's like, not everyone kind of hits that like body of knowledge or that ability to kind of like say like, oh, okay, maybe I need to do something. Like everyone kind of has a different checkpoint. So I'm like, you being upset about your parents not eating healthy is a little bit more of an issue of you being angry as opposed to them being unhealthy. So I think that there's a boundary thing. And I when people recognize that, because eventually they make that change, because I'm a big fan of like you setting an example. Like you don't have to hit people over the head with it for them to get the idea of like, oh, I should like not do the drive-through every day. Mm-hmm. But sometimes okay, would you say?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think like, I don't know. I think everything obviously in moderation. That's like a big thing.
That's such a cop-out answer. I want to know how often.
How often I go to the drive-through?
No, I mean, how often can I go?
Oh, I don't know. I feel like...
because, again, it goes back to like all or nothing.
Yeah.
And then when people do something once that's bad, yeah, they're like, oh, it's all ruined. I'll stop working out. I'll just eat like a pig again. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think it's hard. It's hard to say like, oh, you can go through the drive-through like once a week. But I know for myself personally, like I used to go out a lot and get coffee every week. So I would be getting coffees, lattes, all sorts of things. And I found for myself, like I never really felt good afterwards. So I started making.
Did you feel good during?
I did. I enjoyed it.
Let's be real.
No, for sure. You feel good in the moment. And then afterwards, I'm kind of like taking a step back, and I was like, okay, I'm going to the drive-thru every day, spending money on my coffee, ordering things that I wouldn't usually like have if I was making it at home. And so even something just as simple as making my coffee at home, that has caused like such a big change, because then I'm not going through those drive-thrus and I'm not tempted to get a cookie on the side or something like that.
Okay, well, so I mean that's interesting, because I was gonna be like, okay, what's the big deal of getting a coffee? We'll go to Starbucks or have a whatever. But then maybe it's like it's the attachment. It's like, well, I'm going, I might as well get a cookie.
Yeah.
I mean, if it's once in a while, I don't think it's big.
No, for sure.
But if it's like, because things become habits, and you become like addicted to the feeling of like, I'm excited. I like going through the drive-through. I like getting my stuff. I like when they don't make a mistake. I like tasting. I like parking in the same spot and watching people walk across the street and laughing at them. I like that.
Yeah, exactly. And I think it all comes down to routine in the end. Like I feel like
so you changed your routine.
I changed my routine.
You changed to a healthier routine.
Exactly. And that takes time. Like even for myself, you're looking at all these things you're doing right, and you're like, okay, but I have a good routine, but I could still feel better. Or there's things that like I could go to bed earlier, wake up at the same time every day, and maybe feel better when I wake up in the morning, not so sluggish.
I mean, that's interesting because I think that's an idea that's like, why would I want to make that change? Like you said, go to bed earlier. Yeah. Like a lot of people are like, I like going to bed late. I have like lots of stuff I like to watch, or I like to be gaming, or whatever it is or going out. It's like, what? Like, at what point do you think that people change for the better? For me, I feel like people have to hit a wall, or like hit a low point where it's like, I feel crappy. I can't, like, tell me what I need to do. And a lot of the times I'll tell them, they're like, yeah, I know this. I'm like, well, then do it. Mm-hmm. So now you know it's true what you think, but now you have to do it. And I think sometimes I use supplements not so much because, that's what I have, but because I know that they actually will help remove an obstacle or a block. Like say someone craves sugar, I'll give them an inositol or like a magnesium or something that sort of like it supplants the craving or the whatever's creating that desire. Like if someone's really tired and they're always having coffee, I'll give them like an adrenal formula. I mean, I'll tell them like you can have a coffee, but you don't have 3 coffees. It's like, well, I'm so sluggish. Like, okay, have your coffee, but then take this, and then in 2 weeks let me know. And they're like, yeah, I only need 1, and I feel like I have more energy. It's like, so that's sort of like an interim thing. It's like we're moving from a vice to weaning off and then trying to repair something. But I don't think that's the end goal. I think the end goal is like a healthier diet, activity, like actually feeling like I have tons of energy. Before, I don't know how I was getting up out of bed. Now I'm like, I'm just ready. Nicole.
Yes.
How you doing?
I'm good.
I wanted to ask you, what do I want to ask you? In the future,
yes.
What do you want to accomplish in, like, what would be like if you could have, like, I want this in the future, would it be like more gym equipment?
I think I would have to ask you to knock a couple more.
I'm going to knock down. The second floor is all yours. I just
give me the
my
whole
office
second floor.
Space.
Okay. Well, I think personally, what I want to do with my career and where I want to go with what I'm doing, I think because I have the background of kinesiology, more of that preventative standpoint of things, and now gaining that knowledge in the rehabilitation side of things, my goal from the get-go was to kind of merge the two, because I find that, you got to be fit and healthy, so you go to a personal trainer and you do that, but then when you get injured, you go to a physio, and there's different types of treatment in each regard, but my goal is to bridge the two together and help people from an all-encompassing point of view. So yeah, you might get an injury, but we're not just going to do some TheraBand exercise and I'm going to send you home and let you go back on your way. Part of that whole rehab process is, okay, you may have had an injury, you may have, done the more boring work right away, but let's integrate that back and get you back to the things you want to do from a grander point of view, not just the typical boring rehab that you think of. So I think that essentially the main thing, like I said, bridging the two together, and exactly how that's going to look like, I haven't quite formatted it to the T yet, but that's always been in the mind. And I think just creating a community of just strong, like-minded people from all walks of life, who want to share their health journey together through social support and just through sharing a positive environment in general, whether that be virtually or in person. I prefer in person. We haven't been able to do that over the past 2 years, but really looking forward to when we can. I just think people connect better that way. So yeah, developing that community and bridging the whole prevention and rehab aspects of physical fitness and health together.
Yeah, and I think that's amazing because too many people train and get hurt. So whether it's just they're not getting trained properly, or they're doing it on their own, or the person training them is not sufficiently educated.
Right.
I mean, I've had podcasts where we just like crap on CrossFit. And it's like, I've had so many patients that like, and I mean, it is what it is, but I mean, there's a lot of techniques out there that was like, you are going to suffer. So I think the understanding the anatomy of movement, and movement being therapy and strength and relieving stress, and like it, I think you need to have all that background that you're developing to have a more cohesive understanding of like, this is why you're doing these movements. This is why you shouldn't do those. This is better for you. This is, and then we're going to change this. And now people are like, it's like, just like we customize a diet or customize supplements, now we can customize exercise and,
Right.
and therapies and physical therapy, so that it's like, I can do the splits. I can like, I don't get tired like walking up the stairs, wherever they are at. Now they understand like my exercise and my strength is like, it's motivating me to continue. It makes me stronger. It's not like I don't feel sluggish after I go to the gym. I don't feel sore for a week.
Right.
I'm fixed. Like what we are used to doing, the science and the understanding and more becoming more of a specialist in that. I mean, that's what the future of physical activity is. And I think
100%.
we need people like that. So
Yeah.
it's good.
And I think a big thing too is that people think they can just go and jump into a new fitness program, which is great. I'm all for people being active in any way that they like. However, there are, there's fundamental movement patterns that you don't get taught, which I believe that you should be taught from a young age. You know, your squat, your lunge, your push, your pull, all of those movements. But people in general just don't have the knowledge of, okay, what does a proper squat look like?
Nadia, I'm going to throw it to you. What are you looking forward to in the future? I know you're just starting, but what do you want? What would you like to see in terms of your career as an ND?
Yeah, so that's a tough one, but I feel like
You have to answer it.
obviously, like Nicole said, kind of like as the years go by, things always change and they're always adapting and we're trying to better ourselves. But I think for me, I want to see myself in a space that is welcoming to all and is encouraging of teaching people like the principles of a healthy lifestyle and giving them the autonomy to feel comfortable and confident, knowing that they have the tools they need to pursue that. So just giving a space where patients feel, again, like I said this at the beginning, like they're heard and they actually like leave the session feeling better, feeling like I've taken into account sort of all the factors that could be contributing to whatever it is they're experiencing and addressing them all, not only sort of like giving a little Band-Aid solution.
Are Band-Aids wrong?
Not all the time.
No, I mean, I know,
Yeah.
I don't mean it facetiously. I mean,
No.
sometimes people are only ready for a Band-Aid.
Exactly. And that's why like talking with the patients and seeing where they're at. Like if they're not willing to make the change, we can't force it upon them.
Yeah.
We kind of need to, meet them where they're at. And then gradually, hopefully working with us, they feel more comfortable being able to kind of unravel a bit more and work at like the root cause of whatever it is.
Now this is really like, we're going to wrap up, but this is like an outside the box question. What do you think is what is the root cause of a lot of health issues, in your opinion? There's no wrong answer.
I feel like it could be a few things. So probably overall like an unhealthy lifestyle, stress. I know stress, a lot of people kind of lately we've been hearing like increased stress levels and everybody's feeling all this stress. And I think that kind of sets off like inflammatory pathways in the body and that can contribute to a whole host of things. So yeah, the unhealthy lifestyle, stress, and maybe this kind of ties into the unhealthy lifestyle, but some nutritional deficiencies. So a lot of the time we're not getting kind of all the nutrients that we need, and then therefore things go off in the body through many different pathways. But yeah, I think that's kind of the 3 that I would say.
That's good. Any parting shots?
No, I fully agree. I think stress is a big one, especially right now. And I also think this ties into what you mentioned earlier. I think everyone's just constantly on sympathetic overdrive. Like, we're just in a constant state of stress and fear right now. It's just the reality of what we're living through. But I think even just in general, there's this whole narrative nowadays where it's like, I always have to be doing something or else I'm not becoming a better person. I'm not progressing. There's always that constant like, oh, I got to be doing something. I have to be, bettering myself in any such way, but there's no downtime ever. And we need to find that balance, because a huge part of health is taking that downtime and being able to, recharge, activate the PNS and calm the body down and just find a balanced state. But I find that that's lacking too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Very good. I like it. All right. So we agree. Stress.
Nice. Stress.
Stress.
Case closed.
All
Yeah.
right, guys. That's an hour.
Oh,
I
wow.
think it went by fast.
Yeah.
It was good. I really liked talking to you guys. We got to do it lots more in the future.
Yes, for sure.
I'll get another guest to really rock the boat.
Yeah.
Shake things up.
Yeah. Someone like that comes in with like Starbucks. I did a podcast last month and I ordered a couple pizzas, and like one guy's like a new he's just starting at CCNM, and the other guy's a nutritionist. They ate the pizza. They didn't drink the pop. They're like, okay, they drew a line. But I drank the pop live.
It's okay. It's all about balance.
Yeah.
Right?
Exactly. We all have to
Moderation.
indulge.
Moderation,
It
balance.
can attest. I am an
Yeah.
indulger.
Hey, I'm recording.
It's okay.
No,
It's
you're gonna
evidence.
lose credibility. You have to say I'm a vegan.
No, I
absolutely
think that the more truthful you are, and like, we're human beings, like we're not the epitome of health. Everyone thinks that they look up to people in healthcare, and there's that inherent power imbalance and just that inherent thought process from clients or patients that they're like, oh, you must be the epitome of health. You must be super healthy. You must work out every day. You must eat your diet, this, and it's like, no, like 80% of the time, maybe 70% of the time, but I want to live my life too. And part of that is enjoying time with friends and family. And usually food is a part of that. And I'm not going to restrict myself to, be the epitome of health. Because at the end of the day, life's too short to just always be stressing about that. But it's, again, comes down to that balance point that we talked about.
Yeah. I mean, every time you say something, I can jump into something else.
Yeah,
I
we
mean,
can
but
keep
the
going.
last thing I want to say is I think people, they have like a vision of like what they want to be. And usually it's based on like someone like at their peak. And like they'll take someone who like does like body like like fitness competitions, and they're like, well, I want to look like that, and like that person doesn't look like that. That person looks like that day.
A
week later or a month before, they didn't look like that. And it's like they're unhealthy technically at that. They're their weakest. And I've been to I've watched those competitions, and when they do their little like bio, it's like, and this is Beverly, and she what's she gonna do after the competition? She's gonna eat a cheesecake. and here is Cindy, and
It's always about that.
and what's she gonna do after the competition? She's gonna eat a cheesecake. And like all of them said the same thing, and it's like they're starving.
Hungry.
and then I saw last month this guy. He was like, it was a bodybuilding competition, and then you have to know like some things are not real. So the guy was flexing so hard that his arm was oozing.
Oh my goodness.
So I don't remember what it's called, but that's that synthetic stuff that they pump in. It was just like. It's like like from Alien. And he just walked off the stage because he knew.
Yeah.
So it's like you have to have realistic goals, and
100%.
you have to know that it's like, you're not going to be in the Olympics today or tomorrow, but you can do the stuff that they do in part, work towards it, and we're here to be like a guide.
Right.
And I mean, we're trying to. We're human.
Yep.
I think. All right, guys. Let's cut it there. Bye.
Awesome. Thank you.